Hey guys, Mamie Carson here with OneJoyousGift.com, and I'm super excited to announce that I'm going to be working with Sweet Stamp Shop starting this month of September, and I'm going to create a repositionable scene card as my first project. And I'm going to be using these stamps, some of them from the new release and some of them from older releases, and the names are Queen, Love Princess, Wicked, Evil Background, and then this cute little dragon as well. I'm also going to be using a sticker sheet, which Sweet Stamp Shop has several sticker sheets that you can color in. And I decided to go with this one called Dragon, so I can use that as some of my repositionable elements also. So the first part of our project is we're going to be creating the background scene. And I wanted to leave it really plain so that you could just add elements and move them around without having something in the way in the background. And so this is just going to be a super simple background that you can apply all of the repositionable elements wherever you like. And so to create the distress ink background, I'm using my blending tool here and some Dusty Concord distress ink. And you just start by going over the bottom in the, you're going to rub your ink blender across the bottom first and get that nice and dark and saturated, and then you're going to work your way up. And so that's going to create a darker to lighter effect, and that's what I was trying to go for. And so the more you do this, the darker it will get. I'm using Bristol paper for my ink blending and also for all of my stamped images. The Bristol paper doesn't seem to hold the color as much as other papers do, like watercolor paper for example. But you still get a really nice blend using Bristol, but you just don't get as vivid color as you would on a different type of paper, but it is still very smooth, so I do recommend using Bristol. And so I'm also using the sponge sugar at the top of the card in the white area, and I'm going to be blending these back and forth until I get the desired effect. And so if you want to add more of the Dusty Concord at the bottom, then you would just blend some more on there, and then the sponge sugar, vice versa. You go back and forth and try to keep from having like a distinct line between the two colors. And I think it turned out pretty good. So we're going to move on now to the bottom part of the card, which is really going to be the land area. And I'm going to be using the hickory smoke to create that area. And the hickory smoke is like a dark gray. And you definitely want to make sure that you pat off your blending tool on that masking paper a bit before you take it to the actual paper, because then you'll get these really distinct lines, as you can see that I have there. They would be even more distinct if I would have just gone straight onto the paper. But the good thing about the Bristol is you can blend out the lines pretty easily. If you were to try this on regular cardstock, you really wouldn't be able to blend out those lines. And so that's why the Bristol is really forgiving. Even if I don't get such a vibrant color, I sometimes pick being forgiving paper over vibrance. So I'm just going to go back and forth until I have the desired look on that as well. And I think it's looking pretty good. Remember, it's going to be nice and simple so that the scene can just flow any way you choose. And so I'm going to take off the masking paper now. And we have a really nice, subtle background scene. And the next thing I'm going to do is stamp the images in the VERSAFINE ONYX black ink. And I love this ink. I'm always raving about this ink. It's got great dark impression, very crisp. It's great for watercoloring. It's not Copic friendly, but you can use it for basically anything else. And stamping a sentiment as well, that's great. But the thing is, you really got to let this ink dry. And I never ever do, because I'm so impatient. And so if you just hit it with your, see, I've got these little marks here that I left on my paper because that's just what I do. I don't take my time. I'm going to be using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers as well to color these little guys in. But like I said, make sure you let that Versamark ink dry, and you can hit that with your heat tool to make it dry faster if you'd like. And so the ink, the coloring is going to be very simple. These markers that I'm using are watercolor markers, and so you can add a little bit of water to them to really blend them out. I wanted to get a really light effect for this entire project, and I didn't do any shading really or highlighting. I'm just coloring in a little bit in the darker areas, and then I'm just pulling all that color out with a water brush, and that'll give me a really subtle color. And I didn't feel like using a bunch of different colors of markers to get different shades and stuff. And so this going with this really light effect is helpful for that quick coloring because I do have so many images. Now, the best way, I am using Bristol to color in these images, and the best way to do this is to, as soon as you put down a little bit of that marker in an area, go ahead with your water brush and pull that color out, because if you don't, it could get a distinct line and it might not blend out as easily. Some of the colors blend easier than the other colors, so you know, it's just kind of working with it and experience that kind of tells you how much water you need to add and when you need to add it, etc. And so for the areas that I want to keep a little bit darker, if I don't have another marker in that same color, I'll just use the same marker, but I'll just use it full on with no water, and that helps me get a darker color out of the same marker. And so I'm just going to continue to color in here very simply. As you can see, I'm not doing anything advanced, just coloring all of the images in. And so I'm going to be kind of skipping around and coloring them in until the coloring section is complete. Now, bear in mind when you're coloring on these stickers, they are not going to be very blendable whatsoever, because this paper is not meant to take watercolor. It works great with Copic markers and it works good with colored pencils, but it's going to be hard to pull out that color if you're using your watercolor markers. I was able to pull out the color a little bit, and so it gave me a really nice little effect here with the dark area and the highlights and everything. So it worked out pretty well, but just bear in mind that it's not meant to use watercolors. So do that at your own risk. I don't want you to ruin your image trying to pull out that color and ripping up the paper. So now I have all of my guys cut out of the paper, and I'm going to move on to a technique that really helps polish off these images, and that is by coloring the outside lines with a black marker. And that black marker is going to help where I cut out and I wasn't able to get a very perfect cut. They'll leave like a little white space, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But this is a way to finish off all of your cutout projects and really just make them look better, make them look like they were made to be like this. They were cut out already or professionally done. And so sometimes I'll lay the image straight down onto the paper and I'll outline it, especially for like little teeny tiny images that are really hard to get around. Or I'll just take it and I'll rub that marker around the outside, covering up those white lines so that it doesn't look like I cut it all up like a 4-year-old or something. So this is a great trick to help your images look more finished. And so I'm showing you here how I have a little white area that needs a little bit of touch up. And so this is what it looks like on the right once you've touched it up. So you can see the difference really helps using that black marker. And now another thing you can do is add white highlights to your image, especially if you didn't do any highlighting or shading on your images because you were in a hurry or because you just don't really feel like it. You can take a white gel pen and you can add some dashes right to the left of the black outlines, and that'll give you some nice little highlights to help your image really look more dimensional. And now I'm also taking a fine line pen here, and I'm coloring in some of the details that I may have lost by watercoloring over them. And so you just darken those eyes up and the eyebrows and make everything stand out again. And I think that they come together pretty good. And I'm putting a little mole on her too. I don't know why. I just felt like she needed a little mole. And so the next part is the super fun part, the laminating. Oh, laminating is so much fun. Do you feel me, guys? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive, well, what I already did, I'm going to put a little bit of temporary adhesive on the back of all the pieces, and then I put it into my laminating sheet to pull through the laminator, and that just helps all my pieces stay together as I pull it through the laminator, or not pull it through, as it goes through the laminator. Do not pull it. And so I just love sitting there and watching it and seeing how it comes together and it melts together, and it's just so much fun. I love laminating everything. And I was like, well, I can cut this part out here to make it, you know, the video not so long. But I was like, man, I love this part. I have to leave the laminating in, for crying out loud. So this is just a cheap laminator that you can get from anywhere. Everywhere has them, Amazon, Walmart, anywhere. You can pick one up and you can create all kinds of projects. They're very inexpensive and you'll find yourself using it again and again. And so here I am playing with it and just showing you how strong it is and how shiny it is. And all my guys look really cute in here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of the images out. Now, you're going to want to leave a little bit of a border around your images. And I'm going to show you here why. So whenever you send it through the laminator, there's going to be a little bit of an edge that you'll be able to see. I try to show you guys here, but you can't see it at all. But there's a little bit of an edge in the lamination area outside of the colored image. It's hard to explain. You want to cut around the outside of that, because if you cut too close to the cardstock itself, then your laminating pieces will peel open. And we really want to make sure that that doesn't happen, because this card is going to be repositionable. So that means basically that you're going to be able to pull the pieces up and put them back down. But with all that abuse from pulling on the images and putting them back down, etc., you know, I don't want for there to be wear and tear on these images. And so just make sure you leave that little bit of space. It's kind of like fussy cutting with a little bit of a white space, but without that white space. And if you hear screaming in the background, that's my son. He just got home from school and he's super excited and always wound up when he gets home from school. And I said, just give me 10 minutes so that I can do this voiceover, please. But he couldn't even make it 10 minutes. So we're going to get through it anyway, and I am still having so much fun. So, okay, on to the best part, and that's where we're going to put on some Tombow Mono Multi. And this glue is fantastic because it's a permanent glue when it's wet, but then when it's dry, it's repositionable. And what that means is, if you put the glue on the back of this lamination sheet here, rub that in with your finger to make it nice and flat. Don't want it to be too clumpy or anything. So I'm going to spread that all out around my pieces. And then you just set that off and let it dry. And I let mine dry for a good hour. And so after you let it dry for a while, then is when it's repositionable. And it really is repositionable on almost all surfaces that I've tried it on. So it's great. There's so many uses out of that that Tombow Mono Multi. And so I put some on the back of all of my images. And of course, after I put it all on there and set them aside to let them dry, I made sure that they were still they were dry and not sticky. I mean, they're going to be super sticky, but you want to make sure they're not wet. So after an hour, if they're not wet, then they're ready to play with. And so I'm going to do all the other ones off camera, and I will be back for the end of the project to show you how I put these guys together. So here we are at the end, and I'm super excited to start putting everything together. And so I just can't decide what kind of scene to build. And so I build all kinds of different scenes. So everything's coming together really cute. And I think that this project would be great for some little kids. They're bored in the car and they can play with this little card. And I just think it's a super great gift because it's like it's a card, but it's also a gift. You could even like put the sentiment on some lamination as well so that the kids can take the lamination off. And I mean, take the sentiment off, and so they can have more room to play. But this is basically the card project, and I love how it turned out, and it was so much fun. And I'm super excited to be a part of the Sweet Stamp Shop family. So go check out their new releases, sweetstampshop.com. Join their YouTube, subscribe to their YouTube channel, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mamie Carson. And they are all over Instagram as well, and they have most adorable photos on Instagram. They really are. They step it up when it comes to still shots, and I'm learning a lot from them about my still shots. So stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be doing 2 videos a month for them, but I'll also probably be posting some cards as well. And so let me know, what do you guys think about Sweet Stamp Shop, and do you have any other products? And let me know what you have created. So here's my final project here, the still shots, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.